Welcome along to the 2013 Ford Fiesta Championship Class C. We're going to see here at Rockingham in Northamptonshire, and it's an absolutely crammed entry. We've got 30 cars this weekend in Class C. Let's have a look at the grid first before we talk anymore. David Elsley on pole, Nick Bowers alongside, then Lee Napolitano and Curtis Mitchell, Aaron Trigwell and Sean Clay on row 3. Fourth row, Charlie Liddell and Simon Horrobin. Then it's Matt Foley and John Langridge. Simon Shaw 12th with Bobby Thompson. Then Kevin Sterling and Andrew Taylor. Following them, Joanne Eason and Andrew Foley. Row 9, Sagir Hussain and Rex Nye. 10th row, Nick Pope, Josh Reed next to him. Then it's Mark Tilbury and Ronaldo Stabressa. 12th row, Nicholas Barton and Jodie Bocott. The grid completed by Daniel Holland and Rory Green. Jamie Going, Dawn Boyd and Nathan Lawley. Nathan just coming into line at the back of the field, had his times disallowed in qualifying, not stopping under red flags, and we're getting ready for race action. The nerves will be jangling in the cars after a very long winter break. Away they go. Elsley in pole position, gets away, but as ever at Rocky on the outside line, seems to be quicker off the line, and it's Nick Bowers in the green 51 car that leads through. David Elsley second, about to be passed I think on the inside by Aaron Trigwell. Trigwell goes into second and David Elsley's down to third, coming under pressure. Lee Napolitano lost a little bit of ground. Going wide is Curtis Mitchell, the red and white car, but it's Nick Bowers leading them round. Charlie Liddell in third place, then David Elsley I think in fourth. Off goes, that's Curtis Mitchell going wide, kicking up a little bit of dirt as the cars sort themselves out. I tell you what, driving standards very high as they went into the hairpin for the first time. There is Nick Pope going off. You've got to say that no carnage whatsoever. That is great driving from all 29 drivers entered this weekend in Class C. The entry is so big, once again, the Fiesta Championship had to separate the SIs, the new ZTEC S, and the other ZTEC class as well, into a separate race. There would have been 30 of the STs, but sadly James Appleby, being a casualty from free practice, had a nasty coming together. And hopefully we'll see him back on track very, very soon indeed. 16-round championship, so still lots of opportunity for him to get involved. As Simon Shaw in the all-blue car, very welcome addition to the championship. Experienced driver, Dunlop Race Academy, and qualified ARDS instructor. So if you want to learn to be a race driver yourself, you can get on the phone to Simon and he could show you the ropes, as it were. But we're looking at the moment at the scrap for third position. Charlie Liddell just going through the green and white car ahead of the silver grey Martini bonneted livery of David Elsley. We go on board with Elsley now. Former champion Elsley, very warm welcome back to the championship for him. 26 years of age, so I said obviously more experienced than Charlie Liddell, and we'll say explain the obviously in a moment about Charlie, but Elsley has a quick look in his mirrors. He was runner-up in 2008, 2009 champion. It was his 7th pole position in Fiesta racing this weekend, and probably Rockingham not really the place that you want to have it, because so often we do see the cars go off on the outside line. He's having a look at the inside of Liddell as they come down towards the hairpin at Tarzan. Well, he's working hard at the wheel, but out front it's Aaron Trigwell putting pressure on Nick Bowers. Trigwell looks round the outside, seeds that one. Bowers has got the line. Great view of some of the undulations here at Rockingham. A lot of people say it's flat and dull. Far from it. Look at Steel Straight. Look, they go up a hump here, and you can see what a great camera angle that is. So down the hill towards Graceland, which is where they are now, and then the run down towards Tarzan, the hairpin named after the corner at the famous Zandvoort circuit. So Trigwell hard on the brakes. Lots of different lines that you can take. When it rains here, I mean, I hope it's not going to rain today, it opens up even more lines. Now the great thing here is if you get the inside at Zandvoort, you think you got the place done, but the next corner at the end of the straight is the Brook Complex. It's where the cars are coming up to now. They'll turn left, right, and then left again. There's the first left, there's the right kink, and the left kink back onto turn 4 on the main part of the huge 1.5 mile oval circuit here. Rockingham, of course, built for the visit of the champ cars quite a few years ago now, 15 or so years back. So where the circuit is banked, which is where they're coming on to now, one of the big oval corners, it's a very shallow banking, it's not steep NASCAR banking. Cars go through. So many people I know would love to see the NASCARs racing here, and probably a lot of the guys and indeed girls that are racing in this championship. There's our lead quartet. Still got Simon Shaw in 5th position, doing a great job on his debut in the Fiestas as the leaders come out of the Dean hairpin and run down towards the right-hander. Now we're going to see a change here. Simon Shaw, I think, he's going to be squeezed out here by Matt Foley in 82. Yes, he is. Lina Politano in 24 behind him. Then it's Andrew Foley, followed by Simon Horobin, another newcomer to the championship, the silver and orange car that we just saw. So I'll tell you what, there's some class names at the wrong end of the top 10. This is how competitive this championship's going to be this year. I think anybody aiming for a top 10, shall we say, of the lesser experienced drivers, is going to be aiming very high indeed. Now this is the view from Horobin. As I mentioned, new driver. When we see the car on circuit, it's silver and orange. Simon raced in the Smart Car series, and prior to that, lots of experience in karting, and looks like he's certainly up the right end of the grid. Qualified today in 8th place. One of several drivers with onboard cameras for us. Andrew Foley in front, putting the challenge on to the blue and yellow car of Lina Politano. Foley's going to have a look down the inside. Is there room there? Bang, they touch. Napolitano turns in. He's not going to see the place either. Well, the two cars slow up and Simon Horobin pounces. He's past Foley and now fires himself down the inside. He's going to have, I think, a better run out of the Brook S's onto the straight. He does along the straight and moves up 2 positions. That was great race reading by Horobin. And, well, I think Foley and Napolitano are going to be arguing that move out in the paddock. That's a good position gained for him. Picks up the dirt as they go through Piff Paff. And then they're going to head round onto Steel Straight, but it's Nick Bowers still out front. Now David Elsley, look at that, throwing the car into the Brook S's. And David Elsley, almost rally style there, has dealt with Aaron Trigwell, who was in 3rd position. Sorry, was in 2nd position and is now down to 3rd as the cars go on to the last lap. Now, was Nick Bowers hedging his bets earlier on in the race? Or is David Elsley, who took pole position and has got fastest lap so far, going to be in a position to challenge on the last lap? Just under 2 miles to go. Elsley wide into the hairpin. This is the Dean hairpin here. Left-hander. Left, left, left. Down the straight they go, down towards the right-hander at Yentwood, and Elsley's on the outside line. That's not going to do him any favours here unless he can brave it out. He's not going to do that. Nick Bowers hangs on to the lead and runs wide, and Elsley's looking at the inside as they come down into Chapman. Side by side, he's got his nose in. Hard on the brakes, and he just pops through. Elsley's in the lead. Nick Bowers is down to 2nd. So the man who started on pole position has got back into the lead. Goodness me, and when we last checked on the leaders, he was a fair way behind Nick Bowers, so Elsley's got his head down and has got the lead on paper. This is going to look like pole position, fastest lap and race win for Elsley, but the race has been tremendous, hasn't it, because he's fought back from 4th position, and Elsley now pulling away from Nick Bowers, and perhaps a little bit of frustration creeping into Nick Bowers driving there. Getting past on the last lap is probably worse than being passed in the early stages of the race, but Nick Bowers, the 23-year-old, a mechanic for West Midlands Ambulance Service, and as we said, remember, top returning driver from last year. But remember, David Elsley is the former champion, and he comes out of the Brook S's onto turn 4 and the main straight, and the checkered flag's going to greet him to win the first race of 2013. There is the checkered flag. David Elsley takes the win. Nick Bowers in 2nd. Aaron Trigwell will be 3rd. Here comes Aaron up across the line. And what a great senior debut for Charlie Liddell. There he is crossing the line, the white and black car with the green flash on it. The junior champion graduates to the seniors with a superb 4th position. Elsley the winner from Bowers, Aaron Trigwell, Charlie Liddell 4th, Matt Foley came through for 5th ahead of Lina Politano. 7th went to John Langridge from Andrew Foley, then Simon Horobin and Sean Clay. Curtis Mitchell 11th ahead of Simon Shaw. '13th was Kevin Sterling, then Andy Taylor. Bobby Thompson got a 2-second penalty He beat Johan Eason from Josh Reed. 18th place went to Nick Pope after his little off on the first lap. Then Rex Nye, Mark Tilbury, great to have him back in the championship. Sagir Hussain and Ronaldo Stabressa, the Danoff cars there. Nathan Lawley and Jody Bocott, 23rd and 24th. Daniel Holland next, then Rory Green and Dawn Boyd in 27th. The two non-finishers, Nick Barton and Jamie Going.
Well, David, very close fight through the field there. Is that how you like things?
I made it a little bit more difficult than it needed to be, didn't I, really? Starting from pole, just got a bit too much wheel spin, really, off the line, and kind of had to fight my way back through. Really good race, though, really close racing in the Fiestas here, and particularly a great win, really, for our new sponsor, BCS Global. Great to put them on the top step of the podium.
Did you always think the car was going to have the pace to come back from that, or did you think, well, that's kind of game over from there?
I'll be honest with you, we set the car up for kind of qualifying pace yesterday, made a couple of tweaks overnight for a good race pace, but we got kind of bottled up really behind Charlie Liddell at the start, and I did think when Nick Bowers and Aaron Trigwell kind of made a break for it, I thought, okay, this is it, it's going to be quite tough to come back. But in fairness to the boys, the car came really, really strong at the end, and we were able to take the win, so really pleased with that.
Some of the biggest upheavals in American sports is in the world of motor racing, especially sports car racing. There's mergers, new series being proposed, audiences coming and going, drivers getting younger and younger. That's why you need the Racing Insiders on MAV TV to help you navigate the turmoil. The Racing Insiders is a new, weekly, 30-minute news show covering sports car racing, whether it's being done professionally, globally, or by the local grassroots club. Award-winning journalist Bill Wood will host the weekly discussions, along with race-winning insiders Peter Keene in Florida and Jim Daniels in Tennessee. It's a fast-paced, edgy sports show. They'll even reach out to guest insiders to bring you behind-the-scenes insider information you'll want to know. This new era in sports car racing needs the Racing Insiders.
The Racing Insiders on MAV TV, Thursdays at 2 and 5 p.m. Eastern, and again on Saturdays at noon.
The opening race of the 2013 Ford Fiesta Championship for classes A, B and D, and a small but select grid about to take to the tarmac here at Rockingham, with pole position going to David Abbott. Ian Scruton alongside. On row 2 it's Alan Donnelly and Peter Dendy Sadler, Andrew Mollison and Jack Williams on row 3. The fourth row, Ken Bateman and Peter Lloyd. At the back of the grid, the red car of Keith Chapman. Five-second board goes out here at Rockingham, and these guys ready for their first bite of the cherry of the 2013 season. It's the ZTEC S, and stalling on the third row was Andrew Mollison, his first car racing start. Well, we can excuse him that. It's a great start though from David Abbott, and Alan Donnelly goes up the inside of Ian Scruton around turn 1 to take second position. Ian Scruton down to third, then it's Peter Dendy Sadler in the black car with the green bumpers in fourth place, and then in fifth the blue and yellow machine of Ken Bateman, and Ken Bateman looking round the outside of Peter Dendy Sadler, switches to the inside, back to the outside line again, a little bit too far back to make a move as they come to Yentwood. It's Peter Lloyd behind them in the black and gold car as we go on board with Ken Bateman coming up into Chapman Curve. Oh, working hard on the wheel, he's lost it. Cold tyres, I think, probably for Ken Bateman. Very often you see that sort of thing happening on the first lap. He's lost a lot of ground, joins behind the recalcitrant starter Andrew Mollison. So Alan Donnelly is in second place, the green car with the black bonnet and black boot, and then the black car with the green trim is of course Peter Dendy Sadler. Now Peter started fourth on the grid. We've got 3 classes involved in racing in this particular event, and we'll get round to explaining those through the course of this one. 16-round championship this year, but there's pressure on for that second place in the race here from Ian Scruton, who's got the outside line there, switches back across track, fancies he might make a move as they come down into the Brook S's. He's about half a car's length back, as you can see, and that's probably too far to point the car up the inside. Alan Donnelly lifts a wheel as they go into the S's. Slightly wider line from the third part of the complex for Ian Scruton. He's exploring different lines to see if he can gather a little bit more momentum up across the line. David Abbott still leads. Here comes Scruton into turn one, and he's going low. He's going low, and he's trying to get through on the inside. Donnelly's certainly left room. Well, there's plenty of room here at Rockingham anyway. But Ian Scruton, who held pole position for Class A, makes the manoeuvre and takes the class lead and second position in the race from Alan Donnelly. So Donnelly down to third. At the moment, it's still Peter Dendy-Sadler in fourth place and running third in the Class A, so probably a good time to start to tell you about the classes. As we mentioned, 3 classes in this race. Now remember, the championship overall consists of 4 classes, and we've got so many STs that the A, Bs and Ds have their own race. Now granted, not a huge amount, but you have to think about the championship as a whole. The championship as a whole has, I think, a record number of registrations this year. It does give these guys that are in the slightly slower car, and I emphasise the word slightly because they're not that far adrift from the STs as we go on board with Peter Dendy-Sadler coming round the sweeping left-hander at Gracelands. Fourth place for him at the moment. Looks a little bit distant from third, but as we always say, the Race Pro GoPro camera tends to accentuate a little bit of a wobble from Alan Donnelly as he goes through Tarzan Corner. So maybe the handling not exactly to Alan Donnelly's liking at the moment. Certainly I think it was a late deal for Alan to come on board with the championship. Well, I say a deal, he's preparing the car himself. He was looking at the STs and has now come into race in Class A, which is for the Mark III Fiesta from the mid-1990s, 1800cc for Class A. Now the car in front there, the black number 3, of course, is the latest shape Fiesta, the Mark 8 Z-Tech S. And that's driven today by David Abbott. Several of those cars having been built. Daniels Motorsport, one of the teams putting those together. You might remember we saw it last year in the hands of Andy Wilmot. And Andy, of course, now racing in the VW Cup, part of the Team Hard from the Touring Car Championship. And now making progress there. We'll come back to talk about the Z-Tech S a little bit later on, but starting to make progress is Ken Bateman after his spin on the opening lap. And you can see it's a less experienced driver in front of him, Peter Lloyd, in the black and gold car, the Bison Showers car. Brakes hard, takes a wide line there, Lloyd. Oh, thought there was going to be a little bit of contact between the two. So Ken Bateman in 55, the man from Hockley, hangs on to it. He took 4 wins, 7 fastest laps last year, Ken Bateman. Peter, oh, we've got a spinner on the inside. It's Peter Dendy-Sadler that spun out from third place in Class A. I don't know if he'll be able to rejoin from there. They've lost Jack Williams, incidentally, from the race, so that's disappointment from him as Ken Bateman goes through on the inside at Tarzan. The great thing about the Rockingham circuit, for my money, is that overtaking's possible on most of the corners. Now that can get accentuated with the class battles, because obviously the faster cars are going to be able to overtake easier, but there aren't too many circuits in the UK where overtaking is possible on most of the corners, but Rockingham is very much like that. So we remain on board. Oh, hello, think about it, he's saying. Think about it. Ken Bateman is saying in 55. He's up into 4th position, so good recovery drive from him. Up ahead of Peter Lloyd. Andrew Mollison in the white and blue 77 car is there as well. The 24-year-old from Borough Green. This his first car race. He spent a great deal of time racing in karts, and hopefully we'll get to have a look at Andrew a little bit later on in the race. So Peter Lloyd and Ken Bateman dicing over the class lead in Class B, which is the Mark V Fiesta. Mollison running in Class B as well. So we've got, at the moment, David Abbott in the Mark 8 Zetec S, the lone car. So Abbott on his way. And a real contrast in just showing how the Fiesta design has developed over the years. Always loved the car from the early days. And in fact, the XR2s still have their own championship up in Scotland. They're rapidly approaching classic status now, the XR2s. And in fact, the Scottish XR2 champion Peter Cruikshank from last year moving up into the Scottish ST. So ultimately everybody does move on, but there's still a home for those cars up here. This is the Mark III, as we say, the 1800cc car. So David Abbott continues on his way, and it looks like it's going to be another win for this multi-champion. Yeah, very little roll on the car as it goes through the S's. Scruton still chasing. Quick look down the order to see what else is going on. We've still got Alan Donnelly in second position in Class A, but David Abbott now has only got two miles to go here at Rockingham to rack up the first Class D win of the year. Of course, he's the only one in it, but he's going to take the overall win, which is the important thing for him here. Beating the other cars. Out of the Dean hairpin, Ian Scruton still not too far behind in the 54 car. Massive gap back, and we've got a challenge on in front of us. On board again with Peter Lloyd and Alan Donnelly. Goes up the inside of Ken Bateman to take third place in the race. Now is Bateman going to challenge back? Looks to the outside line as they come down towards Yentwood, switches back over. I think he's too far back to reclaim the place. Takes a slightly tighter line on the apex of Yentwood. He's still looking up the inside line. This is up towards where he had his spin on the first lap, the blue and yellow car. And remember, we were on board with him then. But it looks like Alan Donnelly has got his feet back on the podium. He's certainly running still in second position in Class A. Peter Dendy Sadler's running third in Class A. And remember, Jack Williams we lost at the start of the race as Bateman looks up the inside again. Down Steel Straight into Gracelands. Not too often that you see cars make a dive up the inside there. It's a real fast sweeping corner. And indeed, Alan Donnelly, I think, uses the extra power of the Ford Fiesta SI to remain in third place overall in the race. Second position in Class A. But the race leader, and assuming he negotiates the last part of the Brook S's, okay, is David Abbott is going to take the win. So the 4 times champion David Abbott takes the checkered flag. It's a win in Class A. Second position for Ian Scruton. A bit of a gap back, around about 16, 17 seconds down at the moment. It's Alan Donnelly in third place. And is Alan going to hang on to that one from Ken Bateman? Yes, he is. And here they come, and look how close these 4 cars are at the line for third, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh place. Across the line they go. Donnelly takes it, but Ken Bateman wins Class B. Here's the result then. David Abbott wins. Ian Scruton takes Class A and second overall from Alan Donnelly. Ken Bateman wins Class B ahead of Peter Lloyd. Andrew Mollison third in class, but takes fastest lap first time out. Keith Chapman in 7th place and Peter Dendy Sadler rounding off the finishers in 8th.
Well, David, pretty enjoyable race there between you and Ian. Was it fun?
Yeah, not too much competition. Obviously this new D-Class car is fantastic, so it was quite easy to keep ahead of Ian, but he missed a gear off the start. Otherwise I think he might have been ahead, because they've got more power to weight ratio. So off the start he might have led the race.
Is that the strategy then, when you're the only one in class? You've got to make sure you win the whole thing outright?
Obviously, yes. Obviously this is a new car, it's the shape of things to come. I've built 3 of these cars, so we hope to have more of them out at the next round. Fantastic car.
Want to keep up with all the racing action at the track? Well, download the new GoRacingTV iPhone and Android app. And remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
So welcome back to Rockingham, our second Dunlop Ford Fiesta Championship race, and on pole position, of course, the man who won the first round, championship leader therefore, David Elsley on pole, Nick Bowers alongside. Then it's Aaron Trigwell and Charlie Liddell, Matt Foley in 82 and Lee Napolitano on the third row of the grid, followed by John Langridge and Andrew Foley. Then it's Simon Horrobin and Sean Clay, Curtis Mitchell and Bobby Thompson on row 6. Simon Shaw next with Kevin Sterling, then Andrew Taylor and Joanne Eason, Josh Reed and Nick Pope on row 9. Row 10, Rex 9, Mark Tilbury, then it's Sagir Hussain and Ronaldo Stabressa, Nathan Lawley and Jodie Bocott on the 12th row, and the grid completed by Daniel Holland and Rory Green, Dawn Boyd and retirees from race 1, Nick Barton and Jamie Going. So remember what we said in race number 1 about the outside line sometimes being a little bit quicker, tends to sometimes be a bit more rubber, a little bit more sticky on the outside. So the green car Nick Bowers had a good start to race 1. Can he do it again in race 2? David Elsley gets off the line well. A little bit tardy perhaps from Aaron Trigwell, a little bit recalcitrant off the line. Good start by 82. Matt Foley in blues trying to squeeze up the inside of Charlie Liddell. Look at all the blue cars in the mix there. The one in the middle is John Langridge. It looks like Simon Horrobin's got the jump on Langridge as we go on board with Nick Barton, of course. Nick, the Class B champion from last year, making the move, bang, into the back of Rex 9. It's all gone off. One of the Danoff cars has gone. Oh dear, well, we said driving standards in race 1 were absolutely brilliant. It looks like Charlie Liddell's in the mix there, which is not good news. So whether he'll be able to get going or not, I don't know if this is going to mean a safety car. It depends whether the cars are clear by the time they come round. One of the advantages here at Rockingham, if there is an incident, it's a very long lap at 2 miles on this International Super Sports Car circuit. So it gives the drivers and indeed the wonderful marshals a chance to get everything cleared up. Now David Elsley, once again, seems to have got hung out to dry on the first lap here, and he's down to 5th, so he's got a lot of work to do to make it a double this weekend. One thing we know, of course, is that he can do it because he did it in race number 1. So Nick Bowers out front at the moment. Andrew Foley seems to have got away a little bit better. He's running in, I think, 5th position at the moment, followed by Sean Clay, then Andy Taylor. So the top 6 has a slightly different look to it than it did in race number 1. Clay in the blue car being chased by the red of Andy Taylor. Matt Foley running well at the moment in 2nd place, but it's Nick Bowers, second bite of the cherry for Nick, and there is David Elsley, who, well, I don't know whether he's got to work on his start. It looks like he started pretty well to me there, but maybe it is just a question of that grip and that line down into turn 1. You do see it so often. I'm not making excuses for the drivers, but I've commentated on quite a few races here at Rockingham, and that is often the case as Foley goes for the lead, looks down the inside, thinks better of it, but it's certainly putting pressure on the race leader Nick Bowers. So Foley doing that, Aaron Trigwell, Foley off into the foliage, and Aaron Trigwell in 3rd, David Elsley in 4th place at the moment, certainly trying to climb his way back through, looks at the inside line. This is where he started to effect the pass on Nick Bowers in the last race, tries to get down the inside line again, and it doesn't matter where he is. It's not as if he's got his favourite place to overtake. He'll attack anywhere on the track, David Elsley, and of course as a former champion that's exactly what you've got to do. So Elsley putting the pressure on. Has he done enough in race number 1 to set out his stall to be a championship challenger for this year? I think he probably has. That pole position after a few seasons away, underlining that he is okay. Is that Joanne Eason off in the background? Well, we've seen a couple of the main overtaking positions where things have affected. We saw Aaron Trigwell take the lead on the main straight. We've seen David Elsley take the lead on the place where the cars are coming up to now, into the Dean hairpin. We've also seen it on the infield. Nye looks down the inside line. There's a little tap on Simon Shaw there, getting physical again. And I'll tell you what, it's a good job he had the onboard shot there, because it does just give you the look at it. But look at all the drivers queuing up behind. It's a massive queue. Bobby Thompson behind this trio. And Bobby Thompson down through past Nick Barton. So Thompson goes through up ahead of Nick Barton. So the teenager is there. Nathan Lawley following as well in the 26 car. That's the red and white car. So David Nye now under pressure from Bobby Thompson, and Nick Barton there loses out 2 places. Kevin Sterling is chasing him. Sagir Hussain in the Danoff car in the mix as well. So out of Graceland they go again. Thompson putting pressure on Nye. This effectively should relieve the burden from the 22 car of Simon Shaw, but having said that, you can see Rex Nye, I call him David Nye, Rex Nye, DW Nye on the side of the car, really getting involved. Bobby Thompson down the straight, gets up into top gear, down into the Brook S's. Bobby cut his teeth in karting, and second, in fact a third generation race driver. His granddad Dave Thompson raced on the short ovals, as did his father Paul, and Paul then came circuit racing in Legends cars, and then, as many dads do, focused his efforts on young Bobby. Mum Lindsay, of course, always involved in the paddock as well, and Bobby Thompson certainly rewarding his dad. So I guess you could call Paul a BT engineer now, as he's looking after his son in the paddock. So this is John Langridge from Andy Taylor at the moment. So again, the quality right the way down this field is incredible, isn't it? Langridge, who I think was unbeaten the year that he won the SI Championship, won all of his class races. Seem to remember a wet race here where he started at the back, won the class but didn't win the race, which of course also had the Z-Tex in it. It was a wet race a couple of years ago. Rockingham, a great circuit for these cars to race on. Had a few years hiatus actually, going back a couple of seasons. And I think the only circuit, as Curtis Mitchell gets squeezed off onto the dirt, the only circuit I think where we've had a race null and void in the championship. Can't remember what year that was, but certainly a few seasons ago. And then we had a little bit of a break from coming and racing here, but it's marvellous to be back at Rockingham. And there is David Elsley onto the last lap. His lead over 2 seconds as he goes around turn 1. It's Aaron Trigwell in second place. Third position is Nick Bowers. So we're starting to get a flavour of this year's championship. This circuit, different from all the others in the UK, because it's the only anti-clockwise circuit that we go to. So setup's going to be different when we go to the other tracks. But Elsley has been absolutely superb, much quicker than everyone else, and really he set his stall out for this season, and no question that he is going to be the points leader, because he's literally mopped up all the points. You get a point for pole position. In qualifying, you get the full 16 points for the race win. If you win race 1, it means you're on pole for race 2. You get a point for that, and of course there's a point for fastest lap for each of the races as well. So Elsley has quite literally mopped up those this weekend. But we have seen the occasional chink in the armour. Perhaps the, as we said, the starting might leave a little bit to be desired. And some circuits not as easy to make up that sort of ground. But 20 minutes is long enough in Fiesta action, and Elsley has given us a superb performance here as he comes down the school straight for the last time into the Brook S's. And he'll see the prize that awaits him as he comes onto the straight. That prize, of course, being the checkered flag here at Rockingham. His team are going to be absolutely delighted with it. David Elsley is going to make it 2 out of 2. There's the line. There's the flag waved as he buzzes the pit wall. So Elsley takes it. It's a second place for Aaron Trigwell. And the remainder of the podium, therefore, shuffled around from race 1. But it's the same 3 drivers that are going to be drinking the champagne at the end of the day for the first event of the Ford Fiesta Championship for 2013. Elsley the winner and fastest lap. Aaron Trigwell second from Nick Bowers. Fourth was Sean Clay. Then the Foley brothers, Matthew leading Andrew across the line. 7th goes to John Langridge. Then Lee Napolitano from Andy Taylor. Curtis Mitchell 10th. Rex Nye 11th from Simon Shaw. 13th place was Bobby Thompson. He beat Nathan Norley to the line ahead of Nick Barton. Then Simon Horrobin and Nicholas Pope 17th. Josh Reed in 18th position. Next was Sagir Hussain with Kevin Sterling 20th. Mark Tilbury 21st ahead of Dawn Boyd. Then Rory Green. Charlie Liddell in 24th place, and Ronaldo Stabressa 25th. The two non-finishers from the race, Daniel Holland and Joanne Eason.
So the final podium of the day in the Ford Fiestas. Nick Bowers, 3rd place. Is that any good?
Not really, would have preferred first. But David and Aaron were a little bit quicker today. Tyres went off a bit too quick and just struggled to keep with them with the pace.
So some lessons to take for next time then?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely a little bit of setup work needed to try and prolong the life of the tyres.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Nick. We'll talk to the man who took past you there. Aaron, that was a bit better?
Yeah, much better. I mean, we made a few changes for race 2. Not quite enough changes, as we can see, because David got the win, but heading in the right direction. So if we keep this rate up, hopefully it'll be a win at Snetterton.
Okay, well, thank you for that one, Aaron. We'll move across to the man who has run rings around the opposition today. You're making the others sweat now, aren't you?
Well, I mean, we've been putting in the hard slog, really. The team have done a lot of work, particularly over the winter as well with the car. And as Nick mentioned, the tyres going off towards the second half of the race is a big thing. So we've really kind of concentrated on that. As you've probably seen, we struggle with our starts a little bit in the first couple of laps, which traditionally for me has been a strong point in the Fiestas. But I think the 2 wins show that we've headed in the right direction, and hopefully we can kind of continue that trend through.
All you've got to do now then is keep the form up.
All I've got to do, yeah, simple as that, hey, indeed. No, I mean, in fairness, it's a real team effort this weekend. We've got BCS Global here, who are kind of our main backer for the year, and they've done a great job with the car, and obviously race car consultants as well. They're doing a fantastic job with the damper work that we've been doing. So it does make my job as a driver a little bit easier, but at the end of the day, I've come away very, very happy from Rockingham.
Well, that's a double tick for Rockingham. Well done, David.
Thank you very much.
Some of the biggest upheavals in American sports is in the world of motor racing, especially sports car racing. There's mergers, new series being proposed, audiences coming and going, drivers getting younger and younger. That's why you need the Racing Insiders on MAV TV to help you navigate the turmoil. The Racing Insiders is a new, weekly, 30-minute news show covering sports car racing, whether it's being done professionally, globally, or by the local grassroots club. Award-winning journalist Bill Wood will host the weekly discussions, along with race-winning insiders Peter Keene in Florida and Jim Daniels in Tennessee. It's a fast-paced, edgy sports show. They'll even reach out to guest insiders to bring you behind-the-scenes insider information you'll want to know. This new era in sports car racing needs the Racing Insiders.
The Racing Insiders on MAV TV, Thursdays at 2 and 5 p.m. Eastern, and again on Saturdays at noon.
The cars coming into line for Race 2 of the 2013 Ford Fiesta Championship, classes A, B and D. We do have some combined races later on in the year where circuits allow a bigger entry. More of that and on. Pole position, Race 1 winner David Abbott with Ian Scruton alongside. Row 2, Alan Donnelly, and Class B winner Ken Bateman. Then it's Peter Lloyd and Andrew Mollison. Row 4, Keith Chapman and Peter Dendy Sadler at the back of the grid. Hoping to have better luck this time is Jack Williams in car number 20, the blue car at the back of the field. As you can see, 5-second board goes out. It's part of the countdown here, and then the starting marshal will turn his attention to the lights on the gantry, which the drivers are focused on, and away they go. It's a good start by Ken Bateman in blue and yellow, who's trying to chop across, but Ian Scruton leads. David Abbott, not a great start from pole position, is down to 4th as they go round turn 1, but it's the Class A boys that lead with Ian Scruton round the outside from Alan Donnelly. David Abbott back into 3rd place as they round turn 1. Then it's Ken Bateman in blue and yellow. Following them, the black and green car of Peter Dendy Sadler, who started well. Back to locking up again is Peter, but it's Ian Scruton that leads. Tight line from Alan Donnelly, who's going to be very wary of the Fiesta SI on his outside. That turns to the inside as they come down into Yentwood, but look how Donnelly's now losing ground on Scruton, who gets a massive Mr. Whippy on there. A real tank slapper. Bateman goes through. Alan Donnelly, a little bit more circumspect, goes through, retains 3rd place, who was down to 4th momentarily as Bateman came through. So we've got Class D leading Class B, and then 2 Class A cars, in fact 3 Class A cars. Well, what a very very interesting start from this multi-class race in the Fiesta Championship, and Ian Scruton is now trying to put things to right, side by side down Steel Straight with Alan Donnelly into Graceland Corner, and he's through into the class lead, up into third place. Scruton recovers. Well, we saw Ken Bateman having problems on cold tyres earlier on, but Ian Scruton back into the class lead. He'll be very pleased to have deposed Alan Donnelly. I think we're going to see a very interesting battle between these two drivers over the course of the season. Of course, all of them want to take the car home in one piece. It is, in many respects, as we say, entry-level racing. But of course, the last thing you want to do is cause yourself a load of grief, a load of work, a load of bills if your car's prepared by a team. And of course everyone wants to go to work on a Monday morning, which is the key thing about this racing. And I think one of the most agreeable things about British motor racing is that you know, on the whole, people that race here are normal people. Look at David Abbott's got a huge lead at the moment, pulling away as they go round turn one. And now the Class A car, you can see this, the extra 400cc's paying off here for Ian Scruton. Let's see whether the handling works well on the brakes as well. Into the hairpin. Yeah, Ken Bateman doesn't particularly want to fight that one too much, does he? So he's down to third. And Alan Donnelly needs to try and close in now as well. Peter Dendy Sadler, third in class once again. And we need to keep an eye on where Jack Williams is in this race as well. So Ian Scruton leading the class, and David, we're going to keep an eye on the lap times here. The ST's had a slightly slower second race. So Denny Sadler down Steel Straight and into the Graceland sweeping left-hander. So before we moved to this onboard trial, I was starting to tell you about the different champions that we've had. The inaugural Ford Fiesta Championship winner was Mike Gorton. That was back in 1997. Brian Taylor taking the championship then. The Z-Tecs were introduced in 2002 when Keith Chapman won it. And Keith's still out here. Terence Clark, Andrew Taylor, of course, now in the STs. Mark Tilbury, double champion racing in the STs as well. And the one thing, of course, you'll notice from that is that the drivers that have been in the championship a while do tend to stay with it. It's that kind of championship that camaraderie in the paddock is very, very good. It's organised by Kevin Shortis, who does a fantastic job. And the team always enjoy their weekends away. Peter Dendy Sadler, though, at the moment, trying to put the pressure on Andrew Mollison for sixth position. Let's see whether... Yeah, you can see the extra 400cc certainly around turn one seemed to pay off, and he sails past on the outside line. Hard on the brakes, down the gears, turns in. Mollison's got the inside line though, and slightly more nimble 1400cc car is going to hang on to it. Down into Yentwood, a little bit of respite from the corners as they come up towards Chapman, so a little bit of straight. We lose our onboard coverage and go back to the battle between the two Class A cars. So the Ford Fiesta SIs. Alan Donnelly still in second place and certainly closer to Ian Scruton than he was in the first one. Now keep an eye on the time. We're at approximately 2/3 distance here, so it looks like Scruton's on for a second win. Ian Scruton, who in the opening meeting last year, if you cast your mind back, we were at Silverstone last year, had a really nasty accident in free practice and didn't take the start, so he was on the back foot pretty much all the way through last year. He did take a class win last year, that was at Cadwell Park. Didn't take any fastest lap, so he's broken his duck there. Had 3 retirements last year. David Elsom, last year's champion. If you're wondering what a statistically a championship challenge looks like, then David Elsom took 2 wins at Silverstone, 2 wins at Donington Park, another win at Cadwell, a win here at Rockingham, and every time he finished, David Elsom was on the podium. He did have a non-finish which was here in the second race at Rockingham, David Elsom. So probably not the happiest of venues for him, given what happened in testing as well. If you look at the points chart, you'll see he actually took more class wins than that, but there were guest drivers in class as well. Torsten Skeen, one that springs to mind, who took a brace of wins at Snetterton last year. Now, championship-wise, I was starting to tell you earlier on about what the championship format's like. 16 races over 18 events, so there are 2 races at each event. The Saturday given over to free practice and qualifying, and then both the races on the Sunday. So if you've got sponsors coming, normally both races are on the Sunday, so it's a good idea to have your sponsors coming for race day if you want to see the action, or if they fancy a more relaxed atmosphere, maybe come on the Saturday. And in terms of the race scores, 16 points for a race win, 1 point for pole position, 1 point for each fastest lap, and to help drivers out, the lowest 2 scores of the season get dropped off the point. So if you have a couple of non-finishes, or you have to miss around due to a holiday or business commitments or anything like that, because remember, this is the working man's sport, then you can do that. So anyone that's not in round 1, as long as they do the other rounds, still going to be on an equal footing coming into the championship from round 2. Now this year round 2 is at Snetterton on the 21st of April, and then we move to Silverstone, Castlecombe. Here's the onboard from Jack Williams. Great to see Jack racing hard here and recovering well, trying to close up on Peter Lloyd at the moment. So Jack Williams running 4th in the SI class. Not having a bad run, a bit out towards the wall. You've got to be very brave to go out towards that concrete wall. Closing down on Peter Lloyd. Peter currently in 6th position and hanging on to that at the moment. Jack Williams was thinking about looking up the inside. Lloyd slightly deeper as they go into the hairpin. So Williams giving us a very good view of this on the last lap. Into Yentwood we go. Is he going to be able to get through and sneak into 6th position? Peter Dendy Sadler is in 3rd. I don't think it's going to be a podium today for Jack. As we go back, there is Andrew Mollison racing hard at the moment with Ken Bateman. So Mollison, Bateman at the moment leading the class. Mollison in 2nd position, and these guys racing absolutely hard. It's still David Abbott at the front of the field. Now Mollison's making a manoeuvre here round the outside as they come into Tarzan. This is going to be brave. There's room on the outside, switches back. Sometimes you can get the cut back on the inside, but he's got a problem. Oh, that is absolutely heartbreaking for Andrew Mollison. What's gone wrong with the car? He was challenging for the class win, and it's all gone wrong on the last lap here at Rockingham. There's the checkered flag. David Abbott takes the win. Drama on the last lap of the Fiestas A, B and D. And Alan Donnelly has taken the win in Class A. Donnelly's got the win. Ian Scruton. Now, is he coasting across the line? He's 2nd. 2nd in class, 4th in the race, and winning Class B once again is Ken Bateman. He's going to be followed across the line by Peter Dendy Sadler. Here's Jack Williams up the inside of Peter Lloyd. Jack Williams takes 6th position, just ahead of Peter Lloyd. Andrew Mollison, well, I don't know whether it was an electrical fault on the car, but he's got it going again and crosses the line after challenging for the class win. Finds himself down in 3rd position, just ahead of Keith Chapman, of course, the former champion, the 2002 Class B champion. Here's the result, though. David Abbott, pole position, win, fastest lap for him. Donnelly gets the win and fastest lap in A, ahead of Ian Scruton. Ken Bateman wins Class B from Peter Dendy Sadler and Jack Williams. Peter Lloyd next, Andrew Mollison 3rd in Class B and fastest lap, and Keith Chapman rounding off the finishers in 9th position.